What's up everybody? My name is not Peter McKinnon, but today I am going to be showing you how to edit like him. What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another Lightroom editing tutorial. My name is Dean Tucker, and today I'm going to be showing you how to edit like the one and only Mr. Peter McKinnon. First of all, I just want to say that Peter is an amazing artist, and everything you see in this video is just my own opinion and visual analysis of how to edit like him. If you really do want to edit like him and you want to be completely accurate, please go support Peter and buy his presets. He does sell presets, so I'll leave the link to that in the top line of the description, so please go check it out. Subscribe to Peter, follow him on Instagram, please support him as an artist. But without further ado, let's get into the editing tutorial. Alright, so getting into looking at Peter's profile, I think at a first glance, I wouldn't say that he has a specific editing style. I think he just edits each shot according to the mood and vibe that he wants to get across in each picture. So moving on to Lightroom, I'm going to be looking at these two styles, and I would consider this one as kind of the rainy day street edit and this one as the cityscape edit. So I've just chosen a few photos that kind of replicate the same look and feel, so I'm going to be starting with this one, trying to get the same tones as we see on the left. So I think the most important factor when it comes to editing this photo is the tone curve, so I'm going to start off with that. And I think most of the tones that we see in this photo are achieved through the RGB channels, but just to keep it simple, I'm going to start with the main RGB tone curve, just bringing down the fade a little bit, creating a little bit of an S-curve, bringing up the highlights, bringing down those midtones a little bit, bringing down the shadows, and then just adding a little bit of fade. I think Peter does have a little bit of fade in there, so I'm just going to bring that tail end up. And then moving on to the individual channels, this is where it gets a bit more complicated and you really have to be specific to get the same tones. So I'm just going to play around with this for a second and just bring this red tone curve down to give it that teal tint in the shadows. And then the green will also give it a little bit of an S-curve. And then lastly for the blue, doing the same thing, just bringing in that S-curve as well. And already we are starting to get those tones. I'm just going to fine tune this just a little bit and I'll show you guys the results, just so I can get these tones absolutely perfect. Alright, this is looking a lot better. So this is the red tone curve that I have. Just making very slight minor adjustments to achieve the same colors. This is the green tone curve, and then this is the blue tone curve, and then once again this is the main RGB tone curve. And already, as you can see, just by using the tone curve, I've used no other settings, we're already starting to get that look. So it really just shows you how important the tone curve actually is. So now that we got that looking good, I'm going to move on to the basic settings, and I'm going to start by bringing these highlights all the way down, and then also bringing the shadows up quite a bit to about +70. I'm also going to bring the whites up to about +40, and then maybe just take the blacks down a little bit to around -30. Peter does have his blacks quite dark, but he still has quite a bit of detail in the shadows. I'm going to leave the clarity where it is, leave the vibrance where it is, but I'm just going to desaturate this ever so slightly. His shot is a little bit desaturated as well. Moving on to the HSL tabs, I'm going to bring this orange color a bit more into the red side at about -20. I'm going to bring the yellows over quite a bit into about -70. And then I'm going to do the same thing with greens. We don't really want greens in this image right now. Then moving on to the saturation, I'm going to bring the oranges up just to make that color pop, as well as the yellows. And then I'm going to bring down the saturation of the blues, the purples, and magentas as well. As for the luminance, there's not really much we have to do to this. I am just going to bring the orange luminance up just a little bit to match the same luminance as Peter's photo. Moving on to the split toning, there's not too much we have to do with this, but I am going to add a bit of a blue split tone to the shadows just to really emphasize that color in the shadows. Going in the bluish range at about 10 saturation seems good to me. And then in the highlights, I'm just going to add a little bit of a warm feel, bringing the saturation up to about 7. As for the rest of the tabs, I don't think there's much more that we need to do. I do think he adds a little bit of vignetting, so I'm just going to bring that down to around -10. Not too much, not anything crazy, but as of that is looking good to me. So what I'm going to do now is just copy these settings, make sure that white balance, exposure, as well as local adjustments is checked off. I'm going to hit copy on that and then go over to our next photos, hit paste on there, and we can see that that is a bit much. So all I'm going to do is just bring up the exposure on that, maybe just bring the temperature a bit more into the cool side just to balance those colors out, and then we could also just bring that saturation down a little bit to match the colors. And we can do the same thing over here as well, maybe just bring up the warmth in that one, and already you can see we're really starting to get the same tones coming through. bang. Just bring up that temperature a little bit. It's looking good. Bring up the exposure. And lastly, just testing it on this one. If I paste the settings on there once again, just bringing up that exposure, maybe bringing the temperature up a little bit. And those tones are really starting to come through. I'll just go to the orange saturation, just bring that down a little bit so it's not overpowering. And there we go, that is the Peter McKinnon Rainy Street preset. Okay, so up next, I'm gonna be taking a look at the cityscape look. Peter's shot was taken in Toronto, mine was taken in New York, a pretty similar landscape, so we're gonna try and copy the style and see what we can come out with. To me, this seems like a pretty basic edit, so I'm gonna start off with the tone curve, just giving it a slight S-curve, taking up the highlights and bringing down those shadows. Really nothing too crazy at all. And then going to the basic settings, I'm going to bring those highlights down as well as taking the shadows up, bringing the blacks down quite a bit, and then taking the whites up as well. I'm also just going to bring the exposure of this photo down just a bit. I feel like it's a bit overexposed right now. I do want to bring this contrast down just a little bit as well to about -5. And that is pretty much that for the basic settings. Now it really just comes down to changing the colors to achieve the same look. So I'm going to start off with the blue just by bringing the saturation down quite a bit to around -70, and then I'm also just going to bring the luminance down to about -70 as well, somewhere in that range. And then maybe I'll also just bring this hue a little bit over, maybe about -5, -6 looks good to me. Bring that exposure up just a little bit now. And then also what I'm going to do is just desaturate all of the other colors. It seems like Peter only has blues in the shot, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just go to all the other colors and desaturate that. And there we go, that is starting to look pretty good. Up next, I'm going to add a blue split tone to the shadows, so just clicking on this first blue over here. And then I don't even think we need to change that. I think what Lightroom has given us is really good. I do think I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to the highlights though, maybe a little bit of pinkish. I don't know, I'm seeing that come through just a bit. So I'm going to bring it up to about 4, nothing crazy. And if we flip the split toning on and off, you can see how much of a difference it does make to the edit. So I think I am happy with that, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy these settings to the rest of my examples just to see how you guys can apply it to your own photos as well. So moving over, I'm just hitting Command C and Command V to paste these settings onto the photos, and then I'm using the plus and minus keys just to bring up the exposure to balance it out properly. So bringing that up a little bit, that already is looking really good. We could even just drag the graduated folder over the bottom, bring that exposure down, hit enter on there, and that is looking so good. Maybe just bring the saturation down a bit, really matching that style very well. If we do the same thing with this one, just paste the settings on there, bring up that exposure, just bring down the saturation even more of the sky, and that is looking good to me. And then our last photo of the day, just pasting the same settings on there. Wow, I don't really even have to do much to that one. That was just a straight copy and paste. Maybe just bring that exposure up ever so slightly, but that is looking good. So happy with the results. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you were able to learn something new. If you did like it, please leave a like. Remember to go check out Peter as well, and please buy his presets if you do want to edit exactly like he does. Again, the link to that will be in the top line of the description. Just want to give a massive shout out to Peter once again. He has inspired me so much in getting me to where I am with my own YouTube channel today, as well as my photography and film career. So just want to say thank you again to him. Please go check him out, and yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did like it, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And in the meantime, remember to stay weird, don't die, and make it happen. I'll see you guys in the next one.